In order to learn your salt, I highly recommend you taste salt on its own. And listen, I would not ask you to do anything that I'm not gonna do. So we're gonna taste salt in this video, and I am gonna share with you all the different notes we're getting. I have my salts here prepped, and I also have a nice little piping hot espresso for a palate cleanser. Highly recommend. Let's dive right in. When you are reading a recipe, most likely the recipe developer has named what kind of salt they are using. Pay attention to that because that is why you will know how much salt to use or not. A lot of home chefs do use Diamond Kosher salt. It's my salt, it's what I love using, and we're gonna give it a taste. It's nice and flaky, a little chunky. Oh, it's salty, but it still has this really pure, clean taste to it. I'm not like overwhelmed by the power of the salt, which again is why people like cooking with this salt. It is salty, but is not overpowering. Let's move on to the next kosher salt, which is also a home chef's favorite, Morton. But we got a palate cleanse. Down the hatch. This is the Morton Kosher salt. It is just a little bit chunkier than Diamond Crystal, and it's known to be a lot more saltier. Oh, the saltiness is, she's a salty girl, you all. Morton is so much more salty than Diamond Crystal. So here's what you need to know. If you love Morton, and listen, you get to pick what salt you love. So you get to pick what you want to use. But if you love Morton, you are almost always going to be using at least half of what the recipe calls for, unless the recipe developer says they are using Morton. Most likely though, they're using Diamond. So just know with Morton, you're using half. Let's move on. Let's talk about table salt, you all. Table salt is for the table. Do not use table salt for cooking. I mean, you can if you would like, but just know you're gonna be using so much less salt in your recipes. The reason table salt is for the table is because it is just nice for just the tiniest little bit of salt if you like your food more salty than other people. For example, you want your broccoli a little bit more salty. Table salt doesn't necessarily meld into recipes well when you're cooking them, and it's just very pungent. Let's give it a taste. It's also very tiny granules. Oh. Oh man, you all, I am not a paid actor. That stuff was so salty. I am tearing up even a little bit. Table salt is so salty. Please reserve it for your table. Stay safe out there. Palate cleanse. Lastly, a salt that I want to highlight is Fleur de Sel. Fleur de Sel is a great chunky salt, and it is perfect for finishing on dishes. Even if you just put it on some salads, on a sandwich, you just do a nice little sprinkle. It has a good crunch and it's not too salty. Fleur de Sel can be a little bit more pricey, but it lasts for a long time because you're not using it in your cooking. You're literally using it to finish off a dish. As you can see, it's nice and chunky. Oh, that little crunch, like a medium potato chip. It's pure, it's clean. It'll make anything taste a little bit more elevated. In case you haven't realized, I love salt. In fact, I love it so much, I wrote it a love letter in my cookbook, The Cook's Book. And you all, this has so much more explanation than what we just went through. In fact, if you are looking at these salts and you think, well, I have Morton and I love it, how do I convert it? There's even a conversion table in this book for the different kinds of salts, so you know how to use them in recipes. I wrote this book and these recipes so that they do not glaze over any kind of instruction or any kind of technique. I want you to feel confident and joyful in the kitchen, and I know this book will allow you to get there.